All right, let's dive in. We're about to take a tour of the most complex, most fascinating, and honestly, the most personal object in the entire known universe, your mind.
I mean, really, think about it for a second. Right now, your eyes are taking in patterns of light, your ears are picking up vibrations in the air, maybe you can feel the pressure of the chair you're sitting in. How does all of that chaotic, raw data become this, your single, coherent reality?
Well, the answer is this one. Really powerful word. Cognition. It's like this silent, non-stop mental symphony that's happening inside your head right now, turning all that raw data into your world. It's basically the director of your own personal movie.
So, if we're going to get technical, cognition refers to all those mental activities that have to do with knowledge. But here's the thing, it's not just thinking. It's the whole pipeline, you know? It's how we grab new info, how we store it away, and then how we pull it out and actually use it. At the end of the day, it's the engine that powers our understanding of everything.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this whole thing, let's kind of pry open the mind's toolkit and check out the core processes that make all of this possible. This will be our first big stop on the tour.
First up, we've got perception. And listen, this is way more than just seeing or hearing, okay? Perception is your brain's active reality builder. It takes this absolute flood of chaotic sensory information coming in, and it organizes it into something that actually makes sense to you.
You know, this whole process can feel like magic, but it really does break down into some pretty clear steps. It all kicks off with physical stuff. You know, light waves, sound waves. Your sensory receptors then turn all that into electrical signals. And from there, your brain does the heavy lifting. It constructs your reality, and it's so good at it that it can spot familiar patterns, like, boom, a friend's face in a huge crowd.
All right, let's move on to our next tool, attention. So if perception is the builder, you can think of attention as the foreman on the job site deciding what gets focused on. It's your mental spotlight, right? Shining on whatever's important and just letting everything else fade into the background.
And this spotlight is incredibly powerful. I'm willing to bet you've experienced this. You're at a loud party, there's music, people talking everywhere, but somehow you can tune all that chaos out and just focus on one single conversation. That is your attention system kicking into high gear, selectively filtering your entire reality for you.
Okay, now for a big one. A real giant of cognition, memory. And probably the easiest way to think about it is like your mind's own personal library. It's this huge, vast collection of everything, experiences, facts, skills that you've gathered over your entire life.
And just like any good library, it's got a system. It's basically a three-step process. First, you get new information. That's the input, the new book. Then you store it, you file it away on a shelf for later. And finally, you retrieve it when you need it. That's the output. Sounds simple, but it's unbelievably complex under the hood.
And this library, it has different sections, for sure. You've got your episodic memory. That's where you store personal stuff, like remembering your last vacation. Then there's semantic memory, which holds all the general knowledge. You know, facts like water freezes at 0 degrees Celsius. And then you have procedural memory. That's for skills. It's the reason you never, ever forget how to ride a bike, even if you couldn't possibly explain to someone exactly how you do it.
And the final tool in our kit is thinking. Now, this is where we put everything else to work. Thinking is what takes the world you've perceived, uses attention to focus on it, and then pulls all the relevant files from your memory to reason, to solve problems, and to make decisions. It's really cognition in action.
So, we've got the tools, right? The perception, attention, memory, thinking. But how does the whole system actually run? To get that, we need to look at what you might call the brain's underlying operating system.
There are really two major theories trying to explain this. The first one, called computationalism, basically sees the mind as a computer. It suggests we process information superlogically, one step after another, kind of like an algorithm. This idea was huge for early AI. But then there's the second theory, connectionism. This one sees the mind more like, well, like the internet, a massive, sprawling network where tons of nodes, our neurons, are all working together at the same time, in parallel. This model, this is the foundation for all the crazy advanced AI and deep learning we see today.
Okay, so we've toured the tools, we've looked at the big theories, but let's zoom all the way out now to the bigger picture. Why does any of this actually matter in the real world? Why should you care? Well, it matters because understanding cognition is like the master key that unlocks so many other doors. It helps us figure out how kids learn and develop, which completely changes education. It gives us the blueprint for designing artificial intelligence that can actually learn and reason.
It even gives us a framework for thinking about consciousness in animals. And maybe most importantly, it helps us understand and fight back against devastating cognitive disorders like Alzheimer's. At the end of the day, when you study cognition, you're studying the very core of what makes us who we are.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe the most important idea. Every single thing you experience, every perception, every memory, every decision, it's all a product of these incredible cognitive processes. Your mind isn't just observing reality, it's actively building it, moment by moment. So the only question left is, what are you going to build with yours?